Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the English Globe, the place where ideas meet learning and where every discussion helps you grow your English skills while understanding the world around you. I'm Adam, and I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Whether you are listening from your home, your car, or your classroom, we want to thank you for joining this thoughtful conversation. Today we are going to explore one of the most interesting and widely discussed questions in modern global economics. Will China become the world's leading economic power?
That's right, Adam. This is such a fascinating and important topic because China's rise has been one of the most powerful economic stories in human history. In just a few decades, China has moved from being a developing country with limited industrial capacity to becoming the world's second-largest economy. It plays a central role in global trade, manufacturing, and technology. But many experts, policymakers, and economists now ask whether China will take the next big step to become the #1 economy in the world, possibly even surpassing the United States.
Exactly, Julia. This topic matters not only for economists or politicians, but for everyone, including students, teachers, business people, and English learners like you, our audience. Understanding global economics helps us better see how countries interact, how businesses grow, and how the future of jobs, technology, and education might change. When we talk about China's economy, we are not just talking about factories and exports. We are talking about people's lives, opportunities, and the changing balance of global power.
And this discussion also helps us practice English in a meaningful way. As we explore ideas like economic growth, innovation, and global leadership, you'll be learning vocabulary that is used in news reports, business discussions, and international relations. That's why we love making these podcasts, to help you understand the world while improving your English skills in a natural and interesting context.
Before we dive deep into this big topic, dear listeners, we kindly ask you to take a quick moment to support our channel. If you enjoy learning English with us and want to be part of a growing global learning community, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the English Globe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next episode. Your support really helps us continue creating free educational content for learners all around the world.
And we would love to hear from you too. Please tell us in the comments below where you are listening from. We know many of you tune in from Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Americas, and share your thoughts about today's topic. Do you think China will become the world's leading economic power? What changes do you see happening in your own country because of China's influence on trade, technology, or business? Your comments and opinions make this conversation even more meaningful.
Yes, absolutely. Every comment we receive reminds us how connected the world is today. When someone from India, Brazil, Germany, Kenya, or Afghanistan shares their view about China's economy, it gives us a global picture of how people everywhere feel about these changes. That's what makes the English Globe special. It's not just about English learning. It's about building understanding between people from different cultures through thoughtful global conversations.
Now, let's talk about why this question, will China become the world's leading economic power, is so important right now. Over the last few decades, the world has witnessed a massive transformation. China's economy has grown faster than almost any other in modern history. From small factories and agricultural fields, it has built massive cities, developed high-speed rail networks, and become a technology hub. Chinese companies now compete with Western giants in smartphones, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence. Many people believe we are entering what they call the Asian century, where Asia, led by China, plays a central role in shaping global economics and politics.
But the story is more complex than just fast growth. While China's economy has indeed become very powerful, there are still many challenges ahead. Things like demographic change, high debt, trade competition, and innovation barriers. The big question is not only whether China can grow larger, but whether it can maintain that growth sustainably, balance its global influence, and become a trusted leader in the international system. That's what we'll explore together in this episode, carefully, thoughtfully, and from a balanced perspective.
Yes, because understanding global economics also teaches us about cooperation and competition. When one country grows stronger, it influences others, both positively and negatively. For example, China's manufacturing power has made products cheaper around the world, but it has also created competition for industries in other countries. Global economics is like a web. When one part moves, everything else shifts a little too.
That's such a good point, Julia. And for our listeners, this podcast is not about taking sides or making political judgments. It's about learning, thinking critically, and expanding our awareness of how the world works. We believe that by learning about topics like this, you not only improve your English vocabulary and listening skills, but also become a more informed global citizen, someone who understands the forces that shape our daily lives.
So, as we begin this journey into China's economic story, let's remember that this isn't just a question about numbers or GDP rankings. It's about how societies evolve, how innovation grows, and how the future of global leadership might look in the coming decades. China's story is deeply connected to globalization, technology, and the dreams of millions of people who have seen their lives change dramatically within one generation.
Exactly. And this makes today's topic one of the most relevant discussions in the world. In our next sections, we'll explore how China transformed its economy, what makes it powerful, what challenges it faces, and how it compares to the United States. But for now, we just want you to relax, listen carefully, and think deeply about each idea. You can even take notes to practice your English writing and vocabulary later.
That's a great idea. We'll also use clear and simple language to make sure all our learners, from beginners to advanced, can follow easily. Remember, learning English is not only about grammar or pronunciation. It's about understanding real topics that people talk about every day.
So, dear listeners, once again, thank you for joining us here on the English Globe. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you think about this important global question. Let's begin our journey into the fascinating story of China's economic rise and discover together whether it truly has the potential to become the world's leading economic power. To understand whether China can become the world's leading economic power, we first need to look back and understand how this incredible transformation began. Only a few decades ago, China's economy was very different from what we see today. It was mostly rural, focused on agriculture, and limited in international trade. In the mid-20th century, China faced major challenges like poverty, lack of infrastructure, and isolation from the global market. But in the late 1970s, everything began to change under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, who introduced what is now known as the open door policy.
Yes, Adam, that period was a turning point in Chinese history. Deng Xiaoping's vision was revolutionary because it moved China away from a completely state-controlled system and allowed elements of market economics to grow. For the first time, China opened its doors to foreign businesses, encouraged investment, and allowed people to start private companies. The government created special economic zones, especially in coastal cities like Shenzhen, which became centers of manufacturing and trade. These changes gave millions of people new job opportunities and started a journey of modernization that reshaped China forever.
Exactly, Julia. The success of those early reforms surprised the world. In just a few years, factories began producing goods for export, and international companies started to build partnerships with Chinese firms. As China joined the global supply chain, it became known as the world's factory. Low labor costs, strong discipline, and massive infrastructure development made China a favorite destination for companies seeking efficient production. Over time, this industrial growth created a powerful foundation for China's economic expansion. The nation shifted from producing simple goods like clothes and toys to making electronics, vehicles, and high-tech equipment.
What's truly fascinating is how these changes also lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. According to global reports, more people escaped poverty in China over the past 40 years than in any other country in history. This was not only because of government policy, but also because of hard work, social stability, and massive investments in education. New universities, vocational schools, and research centers were built to prepare workers for more skilled jobs. This transformation showed how quickly a developing country could rise if it used strategic planning, education, and openness to innovation.
That's right. Education played a key role in this transformation. As the economy developed, China understood that it needed not only workers, but also engineers, scientists, and innovators. So, it began investing heavily in technical education and scientific research. This helped the country move beyond manufacturing and into industries like telecommunications, computer technology, and renewable energy. What makes China's story even more interesting is how it managed to combine government planning with market forces. This unique model, sometimes called socialism with Chinese characteristics, allowed both the state and private sector to grow together.
Another important factor, Adam, was infrastructure. China built highways, bridges, ports, and high-speed rail systems faster than any other country in the world. This infrastructure didn't just make trade easier. It connected rural and urban areas, allowing more people to participate in the economy. Cities like Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Beijing became global business hubs, attracting investment and talent from around the world. The government's focus on construction also created millions of jobs, helping to keep unemployment low while improving living conditions for ordinary people. This combination of development and opportunity fueled national confidence.
Yes, Julia, and during this time, globalization also played a big role. As world trade expanded, companies from the United States, Europe, and Japan saw China as a new market full of potential. They invested heavily in factories, training programs, and technology transfer. In return, China provided them with efficient labor and growing consumer demand. This exchange created a powerful partnership between China and the rest of the world. However, it also made the global economy increasingly dependent on China's production capacity. When we look at global trade today, we can see how deeply China's growth has influenced everything from prices to supply chains.
That's so true, Adam. And while many countries were surprised by how fast China grew, the real key was consistency. For more than 40 years, the government maintained a focus on long-term goals rather than short-term gains. Each generation built upon the progress of the previous one. Economic zones became innovation centers. Small towns turned into megacities. The population's living standards improved dramatically. At the same time, China's leaders began setting even bigger ambitions, not just to catch up with the world, but to lead it in technology, trade, and sustainable development.
Indeed, Julia, and one of the milestones of China's global integration came in 2001, when it officially joined the World Trade Organization. That event opened even more doors for trade and investment. Exports grew rapidly, and Chinese goods began reaching every corner of the world. People everywhere started using products made in China, from phones to furniture. This massive export boom brought in foreign currency, which the government used to strengthen its industries and develop national projects. It also helped China accumulate large financial reserves, giving it significant influence in global finance and investment.
And with all this progress, China's economy started to change in structure as well. In the early years, it was mostly about manufacturing and construction. But over time, services, technology, and domestic consumption began to grow. The rise of e-commerce platforms like Alibaba and JD.com showed that China could also lead in digital innovation. This shift from producing goods for others to developing technology for itself was a major step forward. It demonstrated that China wasn't just following global trends. It was starting to create them. That's a key sign of an emerging global leader.
Another important point to remember is that this economic transformation didn't happen without challenges. As China grew rapidly, it also faced issues like environmental pollution, urban crowding, and social inequality between rural and urban regions. Balancing growth with sustainability became a major concern. Yet, despite these problems, China continued to find new ways to adapt. In recent years, the government has placed greater emphasis on clean energy, green technology, and innovation-based industries to reduce dependence on heavy manufacturing and fossil fuels. This shows a commitment to long-term stability.
Exactly, Adam. The transformation of China's economy is not just a story of numbers or factories. It's a story of people's determination, learning, and resilience. From farmers in the countryside to engineers in high-tech cities, millions of individuals contributed to this growth. It's a collective story of national ambition, modern education, and strategic planning. When we look at China today, its skyscrapers, bullet trains, and modern universities, it's hard to believe that only a few decades ago it was struggling with poverty and isolation. That journey itself makes China's rise one of the most inspiring stories in global history.
And that's why it's so important for our listeners to understand the background before we discuss whether China can become the world's leading economic power. The foundation of its success lies in these decades of transformation, reform, and hard work. In our next section, we'll compare China's economy with the United States, looking at GDP, trade, technology, and innovation, to see how close China really is to taking the #1 position. But before we move on, let's pause for a moment to appreciate how far China has come. From isolation to integration, from poverty to prosperity, it's a transformation that changed the world. Now that we've looked at how China transformed its economy over the past few decades, it's time to explore one of the most interesting and widely discussed comparisons in modern history: the economic relationship between China and the United States. For many years, the United States has been considered the world's largest and most powerful economy, setting the tone for international trade, finance, and innovation. But as China continues to grow at a remarkable pace, the question many experts are asking is whether it will one day surpass the United States and take the top position in global economics.
That's such a fascinating comparison, Adam, because these two countries represent very different models of growth and governance. The United States has a long history of free market capitalism, driven by private enterprise, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Its economy is deeply connected to innovation, research, and global finance. China, on the other hand, has followed a unique model that blends state control with market-driven reforms. This combination has allowed China to achieve rapid growth while maintaining political stability and centralized planning. So when we compare them, we are really comparing two very different paths to power.
Yes, and it's important for our listeners to understand that both countries play essential roles in the world economy. The United States remains a center for global investment, advanced technology, and scientific research. It is home to major multinational corporations like Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Tesla, which have influenced how people live and work around the world. China, meanwhile, has become a manufacturing superpower and a key player in global trade. Companies like Huawei, Alibaba, and BYD are now recognized globally for their innovation and competitive edge. The rise of these Chinese companies shows how far the country has come in only a short period of time.
Exactly. And one of the most common ways to compare these two giants is through GDP, the gross domestic product. which measures the total value of goods and services produced in a country each year. In nominal terms, the US economy is still larger, but China has been closing the gap very quickly. When measured by purchasing power parity, or PPP, which adjusts for cost of living differences, China's economy is already the largest in the world. This means that, in terms of what people can actually buy within their own country, China has tremendous economic weight. However, GDP alone doesn't tell the whole story.
That's true, Julia. Economic power is not just about numbers. It's also about quality, innovation, and global influence. For example, while China produces a vast amount of goods, the United States still dominates in areas like high-end technology, global finance, and scientific research. The US dollar remains the world's main reserve currency, giving the US an unmatched advantage in international trade. Many global contracts, investments, and loans are still done in dollars, which gives the United States an invisible but very strong form of economic power that goes beyond GDP figures.
Yes, Adam. And when we look at innovation, both countries have their strengths. The United States is known for its creative culture and ability to turn ideas into successful global products. Think of how Silicon Valley became a symbol of innovation, attracting the brightest minds from all over the world. China, on the other hand, has been rapidly catching up. In the last decade, it has become a leader in artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, renewable energy, and digital payments. The Chinese government has invested heavily in research and development, encouraging new technologies that can compete globally. This shows that innovation is now a major pillar of China's strategy for the future.
Another area worth comparing is trade. China is currently the largest trading nation in the world, exporting more goods than any other country. Its manufacturing capacity allows it to supply everything from clothing to smartphones at affordable prices. The United States, meanwhile, is one of the largest consumers of those goods. This creates a deep economic connection between the two countries. One produces and the other buys. In many ways, their economies depend on each other more than people realize. Even when there are trade disagreements, the flow of goods and capital between China and the US continues because global markets are tightly connected.
That's such an interesting point, Adam, because interdependence has become one of the defining features of the modern global economy. Even though these two countries compete for leadership, they are also each other's biggest partners in trade and investment. For example, many American companies manufacture their products in China, while Chinese investors buy shares in US companies and real estate. This connection creates both opportunity and tension. On one hand, it promotes cooperation because both sides benefit. On the other hand, it leads to rivalry when either side feels that the balance is unfair. Managing that balance is one of the great challenges of international relations today.
Yes, and beyond trade, there's also the question of technological leadership. The United States has long been ahead in areas like aerospace, biotechnology, and software development. But in recent years, China has made extraordinary progress in renewable energy, robotics, and telecommunications. The development of 5G networks, for example, has made Chinese companies like Huawei global leaders in communication technology. China's focus on electric vehicles and clean energy also shows how it wants to shape the industries of the future. In this sense, the competition between the US and China is not only economic but also technological. It's about who will lead the next wave of global innovation.
That's absolutely right. Another key factor that shows their difference is domestic consumption. In the United States, the economy is largely driven by consumer spending. People's ability to buy goods and services keeps businesses running and encourages growth. In China, consumption has been growing but is still less dominant compared to investment and exports. The government is now trying to increase domestic demand to make the economy more balanced and sustainable. If China succeeds in doing that, it could create a huge internal market that supports its global ambitions without relying too heavily on foreign trade.
Let's also not forget about financial systems. The U.S. has one of the most open and advanced financial markets in the world. Its stock exchanges, banks, and investment institutions influence global finance. The Chinese financial system, while large, is still more regulated by the state. However, China has been promoting its currency, the yuan, for use in international trade. If more countries start using the yuan in global transactions, China's financial power will grow. Some analysts even predict that the yuan could one day challenge the dollar as a major global currency, though that is still a long-term goal.
Another interesting comparison is how both countries deal with economic challenges. The United States often relies on market forces to adjust and recover during crises, while China uses strong government intervention to stabilize its economy. For example, during financial slowdowns, the Chinese government can quickly invest in large infrastructure projects or adjust its monetary policies. This gives China flexibility and control, but it also comes with risks, such as high debt levels or inefficient spending. Each model has its advantages and disadvantages, which makes their competition even more complex and fascinating to study.
Exactly, Julia. When we look at the bigger picture, what we see is not a simple race, but a complex relationship between two powerful economies that shape the future of the world. The United States still leads in innovation, global finance, and cultural influence. China, meanwhile, leads in manufacturing, infrastructure, and long-term strategic planning. Both countries are deeply connected, yet both are trying to protect their own interests. Their competition will define how the global economy evolves in the coming decades, and it's important for learners like our listeners to understand this dynamic carefully.
Yes, and for our listeners, this comparison also provides a great opportunity to learn useful economic vocabulary and expressions. Words like GDP, innovation, interdependence, purchasing power, and global leadership are all part of the modern English you need for business, international studies, or advanced communication. When you study how these two countries interact, you also improve your understanding of how the world economy works. So, you're not only learning English, you're learning about the real forces that shape our future.
That's so well said, Julia. So far, we've looked at China's transformation and compared it with the United States in terms of power, innovation, and influence. In the next part of our discussion, we'll go deeper into one of the most important drivers of modern power, technology and innovation, and explore how China is using science and creativity to move from being the world's factory to becoming a world leader in technological advancement. When discussing the possibility of China becoming the world's leading economic power, one of the most critical areas to examine is technology and innovation. Over the past decade, China has made remarkable progress in transforming itself from a manufacturing-focused economy into a global technology leader. While traditional industries like textiles and electronics helped build the economy, China now aims to lead in artificial intelligence, robotics, telecommunications, and renewable energy. This shift is crucial because in the modern global economy, technological capability often determines which country holds the most influence.
Absolutely, Adam. Technology is no longer just an economic factor. It is a measure of global influence. When a country leads in innovation, it sets trends, shapes standards, and influences international policies. For China, investing in technology has become a national priority. The government has launched ambitious initiatives, including the Made in China 2025 plan, which focuses on high-tech industries such as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, robotics, aerospace, and electric vehicles. These policies aim not only to increase production, but also to develop domestic expertise and reduce dependence on foreign technologies.
Yes, Julia. A few years ago, many people believed that China could produce high-quality goods, but could not lead in innovation or create globally recognized technology brands. However, today, Companies like Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba, and BYD show that China is capable of competing on a global scale. Huawei has played a major role in 5G technology, Alibaba has transformed digital commerce, and BYD is a leader in electric vehicle production. These companies illustrate China's strategy of integrating technology into everyday life, making the country not just a manufacturer, but also a technology powerhouse.
That's such a significant point, Adam. Technology also drives the economy in many indirect ways. For example, AI, big data, and cloud computing are now central to China's banking, logistics, and e-commerce systems. These advancements increase efficiency, reduce costs, and create new opportunities for entrepreneurship. Chinese cities like Shenzhen and Hangzhou have become hubs of innovation, attracting talent from all over the country and the world. This concentration of skilled workers, advanced infrastructure, and research investment gives China a unique advantage in the global race for technological leadership.
Exactly, Julia. And what makes this shift even more impressive is the speed of China's progress. In just a few years, the country has become a global competitor in industries that once seemed dominated by the United States, Japan, and Germany. For instance, China is now the world's largest producer of solar panels and electric vehicles. Its investment in artificial intelligence research is growing faster than in many Western countries. The government's long-term vision focuses on innovation-led growth, meaning that technology is no longer a secondary tool, but a central pillar of China's strategy for global leadership.
Another interesting factor is how China combines government support with entrepreneurship. The government provides funding, research grants, and incentives to encourage technological advancement, while private companies innovate and compete for global markets. This combination creates an ecosystem where new ideas are tested quickly, scaled, and applied in real industries. Unlike purely market-driven systems, China's model allows large-scale planning and rapid implementation, which can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, especially in areas like smart cities, renewable energy, and digital finance.
Yes, and China's focus on innovation also extends to education. The country invests heavily in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, commonly known as STEM. Universities, research institutes, and vocational schools are producing a new generation of engineers, data scientists, and innovators. The government encourages international collaboration, research exchanges, and patents development. This focus ensures that the workforce is prepared to support the next stage of economic growth, moving from manufacturing and assembly to designing, inventing, and leading in new technologies.
And beyond domestic innovation, China is influencing global standards. For example, Chinese companies participate in international organizations that set technology standards for 5G, AI, and renewable energy. By shaping global norms, China can increase its influence over how technology is used worldwide. This strategic approach shows that technological development is not just about economic growth at home, but also about extending international power and influence. In many ways, technology has become the new battlefield for global leadership.
Another interesting point is China's investment in renewable energy technology. The country is a global leader in solar, wind, and electric vehicles. By focusing on clean energy, China not only reduces its environmental impact, but also positions itself as a leader in a rapidly growing global industry. Renewable energy technology is becoming one of the most important sectors of the future economy, and China's leadership in this area shows foresight, planning, and a desire to dominate not just manufacturing, but also critical technologies of tomorrow.
Yes, and these technological advancements also create a ripple effect in other sectors. For example, AI and automation improve manufacturing efficiency, reduce labor costs, and support logistics networks. Digital payment systems like Alipay and WeChat Pay have revolutionized commerce, making transactions faster, safer, and more convenient. Health technology, smart cities, and electric mobility are also growing rapidly. By integrating technology into every aspect of the economy, China is building a comprehensive system that supports innovation, productivity, and global competitiveness simultaneously.
What is particularly notable is the scale of these innovations. China does not just develop new technologies in one or two cities, it implements them nationwide. High-speed rail, smart transportation, renewable energy, and digital finance are being deployed across the country. This large-scale implementation allows China to test and refine new ideas faster than smaller economies. It also ensures that technological progress reaches the population and contributes to economic growth, making the benefits of innovation widespread rather than concentrated in a few urban areas.
And all of this demonstrates a clear strategy. Technology is the engine that will propel China to the next level of economic leadership. While manufacturing built the initial foundation, innovation and technological advancement are what will determine future dominance. By investing in AI, robotics, clean energy, and digital services, China is preparing to compete not only in terms of GDP, but also in terms of global influence, strategic capability, and long-term sustainability. Technology is, in essence, the bridge between being a powerful economy and becoming a global economic leader.
Exactly, Julia. For our listeners, this section also offers a chance to learn English words that are highly relevant to international discussions, such as innovation, technology, research and development, ecosystem, and global standards. Understanding these terms helps you follow news, reports, and conversations about economics, politics, and business, while also improving your own to speak and write about complex topics in English.
So, dear listeners, as we conclude this section, it is clear that technology and innovation are central to China's ambitions. They provide the foundation for future growth, global competitiveness, and leadership in key industries. In the next section, we will explore another major factor in China's rise, its global trade strategy, particularly the Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to expand China's influence across continents and connect economies through infrastructure, investment, and partnership.
When we discuss China's rise as a global economic power, one of the most important factors to consider is its international trade strategy. Over the past few decades, China has become the largest trading nation in the world, exporting goods to nearly every country on the planet. This trade success has been supported by both traditional manufacturing strengths and innovative logistics systems that allow goods to move efficiently across continents. But beyond simple trade, China has also implemented a long-term strategy called the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, which has expanded its influence globally in a way that is both economic and strategic.
That's right, Adam. The Belt and Road Initiative, launched in 2013, aims to connect Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond through infrastructure, trade, and investment. The idea is to build highways, railways, ports, and industrial zones that facilitate trade and strengthen relationships with participating countries. By investing in infrastructure, China helps other nations develop their economies while creating new markets for Chinese goods and services. This initiative is one of the most ambitious global economic projects in modern history, and it demonstrates China's commitment to long-term influence beyond its borders.
Exactly. What makes the Belt and Road Initiative so unique is its scale and vision. China is not just exporting goods, it is exporting connectivity and investment. Ports in Africa, railways in Central Asia, and industrial parks in Europe show how the initiative links multiple regions into a global network. These projects create jobs, improve trade efficiency, and strengthen diplomatic relationships. At the same time, they also allow China to secure resources, energy supplies, and strategic partnerships, which are essential for maintaining and growing its economic power on the world stage.
Yes, Adam and the BRI also supports Chinese companies in gaining global experience and expanding their operations internationally. Construction firms, technology providers, and logistics companies benefit from overseas projects, which allow them to compete with Western companies on a larger scale. This global engagement increases China's economic footprint and strengthens its position as a major player in international markets. Moreover, by helping other countries develop infrastructure, China fosters goodwill and economic interdependence, which can translate into influence in international policy and decision-making.
Another important aspect of China's trade strategy is diversification. China does not rely on just one region or market. It has expanded trade partnerships across Asia, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. This reduces risks associated with overdependence on a single market and creates a network of countries that are economically connected to China. The Belt and Road Initiative is an essential part of this strategy because it creates physical links, such as railways and ports, that facilitate trade in both directions. By doing so, China strengthens its resilience in the global economy and increases its ability to shape international markets.
That's a very good point, Adam. And we should also consider the benefits for participating countries. For many nations along the Belt and Road routes, Chinese investment provides opportunities for economic development that might otherwise be unavailable. New infrastructure improves trade efficiency, creates jobs, and helps attract foreign investment. However, there are also debates about the long-term sustainability of these projects, particularly regarding debt and political influence. Some countries have expressed concern about borrowing too much money from China, but others see the projects as essential for modernizing their economies.
Exactly, Julia. It's a complex balance. On one hand, the Belt and Road Initiative strengthens China's global influence and economic reach. On the other hand, it requires careful management to ensure that investments are mutually beneficial. Many experts agree that the initiative is not just about money, it's also about building partnerships and increasing China's soft power. By participating in development projects, China demonstrates its ability to contribute to global progress while creating interdependent relationships that enhance its position on the world stage.
Another interesting aspect is how the BRI supports technological and digital cooperation. China has invested not only in physical infrastructure, but also in digital infrastructure, such as fiber optic networks, smart cities, and e-commerce platforms. These projects allow China to export its technology standards and practices while enabling partner countries to modernize their systems. This approach strengthens China's influence in global technology networks and positions it as a leader in the emerging digital economy, in addition to its traditional manufacturing and trade strengths.
Yes, Julia. And the Belt and Road Initiative also highlights China's ability to think strategically about long-term goals. By linking multiple continents through trade and infrastructure, China is building a system that supports economic growth for decades. This strategic vision differentiates China from other countries that may focus on short-term gains. By investing in connections between nations, China ensures that its economic influence will extend beyond immediate trade profits and into lasting partnerships that shape global markets and political relationships.
That's so true, Adam. And when we look at global trade today, we see the results. Chinese products are everywhere, from electronics to clothing, from machinery to renewable energy equipment. Ports and shipping routes built or upgraded under the Belt and Road Initiative improve the flow of goods, reduce costs, and enhance global supply chains. Meanwhile, Chinese companies gain experience operating internationally, making them more competitive and capable of leading in global markets. This combination of trade, investment, and infrastructure makes the Belt and Road Initiative a cornerstone of China's strategy to become a global economic leader.
And it's important for our listeners to understand that trade is not only about economics, it's also about relationships. Countries that participate in the Belt and Road Initiative develop closer diplomatic, cultural, and economic ties with China. These connections can translate into partnerships in science, education, technology, and finance. The initiative creates a network of interdependent relationships where China has influence, but partner countries also benefit. It's a modern example of how trade and investment can extend a country's global power beyond simple economic metrics.
Exactly, Adam. The Belt and Road Initiative demonstrates that global leadership is more than just producing goods or having a large GDP. It's about connecting countries, sharing knowledge, building infrastructure, and creating partnerships that last for decades. Through this initiative, China shows that its ambitions are global and it is ready to play a central role in shaping the future of international trade and development. For our listeners, this is also a great way to learn English terms like infrastructure, investment, partnership, interdependence, and global supply chains.
As we conclude this section, it's clear that China's trade strategy, especially the Belt and Road Initiative, is a major tool for global influence. It allows China to expand its reach, strengthen economic connections, and support its long-term goal of becoming a leading world power. In our next section, we will examine some of the challenges China faces: internal economic pressures, demographic changes, and environmental concerns, to understand that even a rapidly growing economy has obstacles to overcome on its path to global leadership. While China's economic rise is impressive, it is important for our listeners to understand that no country grows without challenges. Despite rapid development, China faces several internal and external pressures that could influence its path toward becoming the world's leading economic power. One major challenge is its demographic trend. The country's population is aging rapidly due to decades of low birth rates and the long-term effects of the former one-child policy. An aging population means fewer young workers, which can slow economic growth and put pressure on social welfare systems.
That's a very important point, Adam. An aging population affects many aspects of the economy, including the labor force, productivity, and consumer spending. As more people retire, the number of workers available for factories, technology firms, and services decreases. This shift also increases demand for healthcare, pensions, and elder care services, which puts pressure on government resources. To maintain economic growth, China will need to find ways to support a smaller workforce while encouraging productivity and innovation through automation, technology, and policy adjustments.
Exactly, Julia. Another challenge is environmental sustainability. Rapid industrialization and urbanization have led to pollution, water shortages, and ecological degradation in many regions. While China has invested heavily in renewable energy, solar power, wind energy, and electric vehicles, managing environmental concerns remains a significant task. Balancing economic growth with sustainability requires careful planning and policy enforcement. If environmental challenges are not addressed, they could slow economic progress, affect public health, and reduce global confidence in China's long-term growth prospects.
Yes, Adam. And in addition to demographics and the environment, China faces the challenge of economic inequality. The wealth gap between urban and rural regions, as well as between coastal and inland areas, is significant. Coastal cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen are extremely prosperous, while some rural regions still struggle with poverty and lack of access to education and healthcare. Bridging this divide is essential for long-term stability and inclusive growth. The government has implemented poverty alleviation programs, but maintaining social cohesion and equal opportunity remains a complex task.
Another challenge is managing debt and financial stability. China has experienced rapid growth through massive infrastructure investment, corporate borrowing, and local government spending. While this strategy has fueled development, it has also increased debt levels. High debt can create financial risk, especially if economic growth slows or if certain industries face difficulties. Maintaining financial stability while encouraging investment and innovation requires careful monitoring, regulatory oversight, and sometimes difficult policy decisions. Balancing growth with fiscal responsibility is a key challenge for China's leadership.
Exactly, Adam. Another area of concern is global economic uncertainty. While China has diversified its trade and invested in many countries through the Belt and Road Initiative, global market fluctuations, trade tensions, and geopolitical competition can still affect its economy. For example, tariffs, sanctions, or supply chain disruptions may slow exports and affect industrial production. Navigating these challenges requires strategic diplomacy, resilient supply chains, and long-term planning to ensure that China can continue to grow despite international pressures and competition from other emerging economies.
Yes, Julia. Technology, while a driver of growth, also presents challenges. China must continuously innovate to maintain a competitive edge, but global competition in AI, semiconductors, and biotechnology is fierce. Intellectual property issues, international regulations, and reliance on foreign technology for critical components can create vulnerabilities. Maintaining technological leadership requires continuous investment in research, talent development, and international cooperation, as well as careful management of domestic and global regulations. Failing to do so could slow progress and reduce China's influence in global innovation.
Another internal challenge is maintaining social and political stability. Economic growth has lifted millions out of poverty, but expectations among citizens continue to rise. Young people, urban workers, and the educated middle class expect opportunities, fair wages, and improved living conditions. If growth slows or inequality widens, social tensions may increase. The government faces the challenge of ensuring that economic development translates into benefits for society at large, supporting education, healthcare, housing, and fair employment opportunities while managing rapid urbanization and population shifts.
And we also need to consider trade and geopolitical pressures. As China rises, some countries perceive it as a competitor and respond with trade barriers, investment restrictions, or political pressure. These external challenges could affect China's exports, access to technology, and global influence. While China has built strong trade partnerships and invested in infrastructure worldwide, managing diplomatic relationships and global perceptions is essential. Economic power does not exist in isolation. It depends on stability, trust, and cooperation at the international level.
Exactly, Adam. In addition to external pressures, structural economic reforms remain a key challenge. China's economy has relied heavily on investment and exports for growth, but transitioning to a consumption-driven economy is complex. Encouraging domestic consumption, supporting small and medium enterprises, fostering innovation, and creating a service-based economy requires careful policy implementation. Reforms must balance growth, social stability, and long-term sustainability. Managing this transition is one of the most critical challenges for China's leadership in the coming decades.
And let's not forget the importance of education and talent development. To remain competitive, China needs skilled workers, engineers, and researchers. While significant progress has been made, ensuring that education and training keep pace with technological advancement is a challenge. The country must continue to invest in universities, vocational schools, and research institutions while fostering creativity and critical thinking. Without continuous improvement in human capital, China could struggle to maintain its current growth trajectory and global competitiveness.
Finally, Adam, the balance between rapid growth and long-term sustainability is always a challenge. Economic expansion can bring prosperity, but overexpansion without careful planning may lead to bubbles, inefficiencies, or environmental stress. China's leaders face the task of managing growth while addressing demographic shifts, environmental concerns, debt, social inequality, and international competition. Understanding these challenges is essential for evaluating whether China can realistically become the world's leading economic power in the coming decades.
Yes, Julia. For our listeners, these challenges also provide useful English vocabulary: demographics, sustainability, inequality, financial stability, geopolitical pressures, and structural reforms. Learning these terms can help you discuss global economics, international relations, and policy issues in English while following news and academic discussions. In the next section, we will explore China's strengths in innovation, education, and urban development to see how it is addressing these challenges while continuing to grow.
As China continues its rapid economic growth and technological advancement, it is crucial to consider how other global powers respond to this rise. The United States, as the current world leader in economic and technological influence, plays a significant role in shaping reactions to China's ascent. US policymakers, businesses, and international organizations are closely monitoring China's growth in trade, technology, and infrastructure projects. Their responses range from cooperation to competition, reflecting the complex balance between collaboration and rivalry in the modern global economy.
That's correct, Julia. One of the most visible aspects of this relationship is trade competition. The United States has imposed tariffs on certain Chinese goods to protect domestic industries and address trade imbalances. At the same time, American companies still rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing and markets for profits. This creates a complicated dynamic where both countries are competitors and partners at the same time. Understanding these trade interactions helps explain why global economics is so interdependent and why cooperation and competition coexist simultaneously.
Absolutely, Adam. Beyond trade, the technology race is another critical area where the US and China are interacting. Both countries are investing heavily in artificial intelligence, semiconductors, 5G networks, and renewable energy technology. While competition is fierce, it can drive innovation and technological progress globally. The United States has sought to protect its technological leadership through research investment, export controls, and partnerships with allied countries. Meanwhile, China continues to develop its domestic technology ecosystem while pursuing global collaboration where possible.
Yes, Julia. Global supply chains are also being reshaped as a result of this competition. Many companies are diversifying their manufacturing locations to reduce reliance on a single country, including China. Southeast Asia, India, Mexico, and other regions are becoming alternative hubs for production. At the same time, China continues to modernize its supply chains with advanced logistics, digital systems, and automation. These changes show that economic power is not only about domestic growth, but also about adaptability, resilience, and the ability to manage complex international networks efficiently.
Exactly, Adam. Another important aspect is that, despite the competition, China and the United States remain deeply interdependent. The US imports a vast number of goods from China, including electronics, machinery, and consumer products, while China relies on American technology, finance, and access to global markets. This interdependence creates both opportunities and challenges. Economic cooperation can stabilize global markets, while tension and conflict can disrupt trade, investment, and supply chains. Balancing competition with collaboration is a delicate but essential task for both countries.
And Julia, we should also consider how other countries are responding. Nations in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America are carefully observing US-China dynamics and adjusting their own economic strategies. Some countries are forming trade partnerships with China through initiatives like the Belt and Road, while others maintain strong ties with the United States. Many are diversifying relationships to avoid dependence on a single superpower, which reflects the broader trend of economic globalization and the need for strategic adaptability in international trade and investment.
That's a very good point, Adam. The competition between the US and China can also create opportunities for other countries to benefit. As global supply chains shift and new trade agreements are formed, smaller economies can attract investment, technology, and infrastructure projects. In this sense, global competition, when managed carefully, can stimulate growth, innovation, and cooperation worldwide. Countries are learning that they must navigate the global economy strategically to gain maximum benefits while minimizing risks associated with great power rivalry.
Yes, Julia. It is also interesting to note that global reactions are not only economic but also political and strategic. Many countries seek to maintain a balance in international relations, cooperating with both China and the United States to protect their national interests. Organizations like the World Trade Organization, the United Nations, and regional trade blocs play important roles in managing disputes, facilitating dialogue, and promoting transparency. These mechanisms help ensure that competition between major powers does not escalate into conflicts that could disrupt global stability.
Exactly. Another factor is technological interdependence. Many global industries rely on innovations developed in both the US and China. For example, American companies may use Chinese components in their products, while Chinese firms rely on US software or research collaborations. This shared technological ecosystem creates a form of mutual dependency that encourages dialogue, partnership, and regulatory coordination. Competition drives improvement, but cooperation ensures that progress is sustainable and benefits the wider global economy.
And as this competition continues, it also sets new standards for innovation, trade policies, and global governance. Companies are incentivized to improve efficiency, invest in research, and adopt advanced technology to remain competitive. Countries are motivated to strengthen education, infrastructure, and policy frameworks to attract investment and participate effectively in international trade. In this way, the rivalry between China and the US, while complex, can be a force for positive global development if it is managed wisely, balancing ambition with collaboration.
That's a key insight, Adam. For our listeners, it's clear that global reactions to China's rise are multidimensional, involving trade, technology, diplomacy, and strategy. The United States and China are not operating in isolation, and their actions ripple across the world. By observing these dynamics, one can learn how economic power, innovation, and international cooperation are interlinked. It also provides an excellent opportunity to expand English vocabulary with terms such as interdependence, diversification, supply chains, export controls, and strategic adaptability.
Absolutely, Julia. As we reflect on this section, it becomes clear that competition between China and the US has the potential to drive global progress. Innovation accelerates, supply chains become more efficient, and nations are encouraged to develop strategically. At the same time, managing rivalry responsibly is critical to ensure stability and mutual benefit. Understanding these dynamics helps our listeners not only follow world events, but also practice English by discussing complex global issues with clarity and confidence.
Exactly, Adam. So, dear listeners, in this section we have explored how the United States and the global community respond to China's rise, the effects on trade, technology, and supply chains, and the opportunities created through competition and interdependence. In the next section, we will examine China's demographic trends, urban development, and domestic policies, and see how they affect the country's potential to achieve long-term economic leadership while navigating internal and external challenges.
When discussing China's rise as an economic power, it is crucial to consider the human side, the people who make growth possible. One of the most remarkable aspects is China's education system. Over the past decades, China has invested heavily in education, creating a large pool of skilled workers, engineers, scientists, and innovators. Universities, vocational schools, and research institutes focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the fields most essential for modern industry and technological leadership. This investment in human capital strengthens China's ability to innovate and compete globally.
Exactly, Adam. Education is only part of the story, though. Another major factor is urbanization. In the last 40 years, hundreds of millions of people have moved from rural villages to cities. This migration has fueled China's industrial growth and created vibrant urban centers that serve as hubs for business, technology, and education. Cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou are not only economic powerhouses, but also centers of cultural and social transformation. Urbanization has provided opportunities for people to access better jobs, higher education, and modern amenities.
Yes, Julia, and this shift has also affected work culture and productivity. Chinese workers are known for discipline, efficiency, and a strong focus on technical skills. Many industries emphasize long-term planning, teamwork, and dedication to improving processes. This work ethic, combined with continuous skill development through training programs and on-the-job learning, ensures that the workforce is highly capable of meeting the demands of a rapidly changing economy. The combination of education and disciplined work habits gives China a competitive advantage that is difficult to replicate.
That's right, Adam. Technical skills are essential, but so is the ability to adapt to new industries and technologies. Chinese society places significant value on learning, skill mastery, and continuous improvement. From engineers in high-tech industries to factory workers implementing new automation techniques, the focus is always on efficiency, quality, and innovation. This societal emphasis on knowledge, skill, and practical application contributes directly to economic growth and positions China as a strong competitor on the global stage.
And Julia, beyond skills and urbanization, it's also worth noting the culture of collaboration and collective effort. Many Chinese businesses and industries encourage employees to work together on large projects, solving problems collectively and striving for efficiency. This collaborative mindset, combined with discipline and technical expertise, allows China to execute large-scale infrastructure projects, maintain high production standards, and rapidly implement technological innovations. People are not just workers, they are the driving force behind China's transformation.
Absolutely. When we reflect on human capital, it becomes clear that a nation's people are its true source of power. Technology, infrastructure, and capital are important, but without skilled, motivated, and educated individuals, economic growth cannot be sustained. China's focus on education, urban development, and workforce training highlights the central role of people in building a nation's future. This perspective shows that economic power is not just about factories or technology, but about cultivating talent and maximizing human potential.
Yes, Julia. For our listeners, this is an excellent opportunity to understand vocabulary related to society and workforce, such as human capital, urbanization, technical skills, discipline, workforce, and innovation. Learning these terms helps in discussing economics, global development, and social issues in English. It also allows learners to explore how education, migration, and cultural values influence economic growth and competitiveness on an international scale.
And as we conclude this section, it is evident that China's people are at the heart of its economic story. The country's education system produces innovators and skilled workers, urbanization brings talent to dynamic centers, and a disciplined work culture drives productivity. By focusing on human capital, China ensures that its growth is sustainable and capable of supporting long-term ambitions. The nation's people, more than any other factor, are central to its journey toward global economic leadership.
Exactly, Julia. In the next section, we will explore China's financial strategies, investments, and currency policies, and examine how these economic tools complement human capital and technological innovation to strengthen China's position in the global economy. As we conclude our discussion, Julia, it's important to summarize the key points for our listeners. China's economic transformation over the past decades has been remarkable, driven by trade, innovation, infrastructure, and human capital. At the same time, it faces significant challenges such as demographic shifts, environmental concerns, and global competition. Understanding these dynamics helps learners see not only how China has grown, but also how complex global economics can be, with opportunities and risks intertwined at every stage.
Exactly, Adam. And for our English learners, exploring topics like China's rise provides a valuable chance to expand both vocabulary and worldview. Terms such as demographics, sustainability, innovation, geopolitics, and interdependence are not just academic words. They help you discuss real-world events in English. Following global news, analyzing reports, and engaging in discussions can improve comprehension and speaking skills. By learning language in context, students gain practical knowledge while also understanding international affairs.
Yes, Julia. One practical tip for learners is to use news articles, economic analyses, and podcasts like ours to practice English daily. Try summarizing key points in your own words, discussing them with friends or online groups, and noting new vocabulary. You can also compare perspectives from different countries to improve critical thinking and cultural awareness. This approach builds fluency and confidence while keeping learning connected to real-world events, which is essential for both language development and understanding global economics.
Another useful strategy is to engage in debates or write short essays about topics like economic growth, global trade, or technological innovation. For example, you could explain China's Belt and Road Initiative in simple English, discuss its challenges, or reflect on how international cooperation works. Using real examples makes learning concrete and helps learners practice advanced structures, vocabulary, and expressions in a meaningful way. It's a practical method that links language skills with knowledge about the world.
Absolutely, Julia. Beyond language, there's a broader lesson here. Staying informed about the world builds perspective and open-mindedness. Learning about China's economic rise, global trade, and the interactions between nations shows that change is constant and complex. It also reminds us that economic power is temporary. What truly lasts is knowledge, understanding, and the ability to adapt. For English learners, combining language skills with global awareness provides an advantage in education, career, and personal growth.
Yes, Adam. And we want to encourage our listeners to approach learning with curiosity and persistence. Explore global events, follow economic trends, discuss issues in English, and never hesitate to ask questions. By doing so, you not only improve your English, but also develop critical thinking, awareness, and the ability to communicate confidently about complex topics. Language is not just a tool. It's a bridge to understanding people, economies, and cultures around the world.
Exactly, Julia. So, dear listeners, as we finish this podcast, remember that China's economic journey teaches us lessons about strategy, innovation, resilience, and the importance of human capital. At the same time, it reminds us that knowledge, curiosity, and communication are powerful tools for everyone. Economic power may change over time, with new leaders emerging, but the ability to learn, think critically, and understand the world always remains true power.
Yes, Adam. To close, we encourage all our listeners to continue exploring the world, practicing English, and staying open-minded. Read articles, watch educational videos, discuss global topics with friends, and never stop learning. By combining language skills with global knowledge, you become more capable of understanding and engaging with the world around you. Remember, economic power may shift, but knowledge and learning are forever.
Exactly, Julia. Thank you for joining us today on the English Globe. We hope this podcast not only improved your English, but also gave you insight into global economics, China's rise, and the factors shaping the future. Keep learning, stay curious, and embrace new perspectives. Knowledge is power, and through understanding the world, we can all become better communicators and global citizens.
Thank you, dear listeners. Remember, economic power changes, but knowledge always remains power. Stay informed, stay curious, and keep practicing your English every day.